Welcome everyone to Defender for Cloud in the Field. We recently have a great announcement around SQL VA. So today we are going to cover that. But before we start, I just want to say again, thank you for all the subscribers. If you are not a subscriber, make sure to follow the link below, which is our AKA for the playlist within the Microsoft Security channel. All right, so SQL VA, and to talk about that, we have a great guest from our Israeli team, Catalin Esanu. Catalin, thank you very much for being on.
Hey Yuri, it's great to be here. Very happy to join the show for the first time.
Yes, first time. We've been talking about this for a long time, so I'm glad that finally we made it happen. All right, so
Yeah.
we had some recent announcements around the SQL Vulnerability Assessment. And one of the biggest thing, if you are a Defender for Cloud, Defender for SQL customer, you will remember that in the past we used to need to have a storage account to store all the vulnerabilities findings. So what happens to the existing storage account with the vulnerabilities, and what should customers do with them, with using this new approach? Well, first of all, talk about the new approach, right? How it works, and then talk about what happens with the existing storage accounts.
Okay. So just to remind everyone, Defender for SQL has two parts. It has the vulnerability assessment part and the advanced threat protection part. The vulnerability assessment part tells you what you need to do in able to be secure, and the threat protection part tells you, notifies you of things that really happen now, of attackers that take leverage of misconfigurations that you might have not fixed before. So we saw that that storage account that Yuri mentioned was a blocker or a cause of friction for many customers to enable VA, and thus not being fully secure with the two parts of the bundle that of the SQL plan that work together. So we invested a lot in making that just a one-click configuration to that basically when you turn on the Defender for SQL bundle, both VA vulnerability assessment and advanced threat protection ATP will be turned on together and configured automatically without any additional intervention. So you don't have to provide that storage account. You don't have to manage it. It's not like we no longer create any additional resources, and we just do it for you. So if you are an existing customer and you are switching to this new configuration, to Express configuration, then the existing storage accounts will still be there, and you can choose what to do with them. We no longer need them for the operation of vulnerability assessment, but you may want to store them, to save them for a little while, because you may want to have access to historical scan data, so that remains on that storage account. You may want to reapply baselines, and you want to look at existing configurations, which are also stored on that storage account. So those would be reasons to save the data. But operationally, there is no such requirement. Does it make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So now comes the question: where are the vulnerabilities, the findings by the SQL VA stored now?
Okay, so it's both findings and baselines and baseline settings, right? So they are account within our deployment, and it's deployed securely. We don't have access to it. We don't have direct access to it, and it's stored regionally. So if you enable the Defender for SQL in West Europe, the data will be stored in West Europe and will not leave that region.
So you're gonna honor the data residency where it was originally enabled.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is similar to what's already being done with Defender for SQL on VMs. So it's a very similar configuration.
Awesome, that's great. Can you turn on this new Express VA at resource level?
So yes. So today, if you go into the portal, and we'll see this very soon, if you are using, if you've already configured the VA, then you will be able to switch to the new experience, or choose to remain in the original, in the classic experience. We also notify you that if VA is misconfigured, and then it's very easy to switch to Express configuration and just be secure.
One of the questions that's always come up when we are talking about scanning and obtaining data is about performance. Do we have any performance, potential performance issues or downgrade or anything that you want to highlight with this?
So it's important to highlight that this is the same product that we all know and love. So we don't change anything in the scanning logic. So all the queries and findings that run on the database as part of the classic configuration will run the same. So you know, that's not something that should worry customers. So the
In
only
other
thing that
words, there is
changed,
no impact.
there is no new impact, right?
Right.
The scanning itself has some minor impact when it runs, but that doesn't change between the configurations. The configurations, the classic and express configuration, just tell us where to store these scan results and baselines.
And there is no change in pricing as well.
No, this is included in the Defender for SQL bundle price. And you know, our customers until now had to provide a storage account, and now they will no longer have to do that. Though I don't think there's huge amounts of data stored in those storage accounts today. But it's also a price that you will no longer have to pay if you choose to remove the storage accounts now.
Yeah. So if anything happens, it should actually decrease because you don't need to pay for the storage account anymore. That's a great point. Which SQL versions are covered by this new Express VA?
So we are talking about the scope of this public preview is for Azure SQL databases. So it's managed databases in Azure, only the SQL DB ones, and dedicated SQL pools, Synapse dedicated SQL pools outside of Synapse, what's formerly known as SQL DW.
Okay. And when it comes to the main functionalities, what are we bringing besides the storage account? There's no need for storage account anymore. There is any other enhancements?
So yes, good question. So so first, you no longer have this enablement friction. Okay, so that's out of the box. But you will also be able to really have this enabled on all your servers at subscription level, because with this we can really easily enforce subscription level activation of VA together with advanced threat protection. So you will have that covered. In addition, so we will automatically scan any database under a configured server. So you no longer have this option of saying turn on or off the recurring scans, because the product doesn't have a security value if you don't run these scans. So we will scan. And then we added a bunch of new features around the baseline setting. Okay, so I mentioned baselines a couple of times before. What are baselines? Just to make sure we're aligned. So as part of VA, we have a lot of findings, a lot of sub-assessments that go into that. SQL databases should have findings resolved recommendation. So it may be kind of hard to make sure that around 50 rules stand up, become healthy, because the findings don't always reflect a real problem. It is a potential problem, but the customer can say, okay, I accept the status as it is. So that's what a baseline is saying the results of this finding are okay with me. I set it as a baseline. And if they change again, if a row is added or a row is missing, then the finding will become unhealthy again because the baseline changed. So that you get before.
You basically explained the baseline. Let's talk about what's new.
Yeah. So you still have that, but the problem before was that that you had to set up baselines one by one per finding, per rule. And after you set up baselines, you had to rescan a database in order to see the changes, to see it have effect. So with Express configuration, every baseline that you set will have immediate effect, no need for rescan. And you can also apply baselines at scale. So you can send one command that will apply all the baselines that you want for the entire database.
Wow,
Furthermore,
that's great.
Yeah, and furthermore, you can also say, let's say you installed your database, and you know that the minute it's installed, it's okay. You know that all the findings that we have should be added as a baseline. So you can just scan it and add all the latest scan results as a baseline. So you don't even have to write, the configurations for every rule. Just say the last scan results are fine by me, and then everything will become green.
Awesome. Let's take a look at this. Let's go to the demo.
So let's demo. First, I wanted to mention that we rehauled the documentation a bit to support the classic configuration and express configuration. So we added in the overview page a comparison between the two experiences. So you can go through it and choose if you want to switch or not. And every other page here, a dedicated tab to that specific configuration. So if you're on Express configuration, just go through the data in this tab, and you don't have to switch between them per topics. Now let's see how it looks in the portal. So I created a few servers and wanted to show how it should look for each of them. Okay, so this is a server that that didn't have the Defender for SQL bundle enabled. So this hasn't changed. You press the big blue button, and then you will be fully configured by default with VA and ATP, and VA will have Express configuration. This second server. So here on this server, we have this warning, okay, that says that VA is not configured. So you may have started adding a storage account, but it's not fully configured. So this is a very good candidate to enable Express configuration because you didn't have anything that really worked until now. So you just click enable and you will go to Express configuration. And the last thing you'll see is is a server that already has VA configured with the classic configuration. So you will have this this purple box that suggests switching over if you accept it. You don't have to. The solution is working, but if you go through the documentation and see that it makes sense, you can switch over. Now let's look at server EC demo number 4. And so this one has classic configuration. Let's enable Express configuration. We asked again if we are sure we want to do it. We give you a link to the documentation again, just to make sure that you understand what's happening now, and you can confirm. And we're on. Now you can see here, if we go into the settings blade, that for VA, everything that you have is just Express configuration is on. You don't need to do anything else. So that's how the magic looks. Now, if it may be very easy to switch because we try to make sure customers are aware of what's happening, but it's sometimes very easy to to be very excited, like, because it's a great feature. So customers may want to go back to the previous experience in case that they need some features that don't exist in Express configuration, or have some mechanisms running based on classic configuration APIs. So in that case, in order to switch back, you need to use a PowerShell or an API call to go back. And I wanted to show how that looks, just to show that it's not a big deal. Okay, so in that case, we'll turn off the bundle from the portal. Okay, so we see that it's turned off. We'll just go to our PowerShell editor, and what we need to do now is turn on advanced threat protection, because in classic configuration there is a dependency between the two, which it doesn't exist with Express configuration, by the way. So and then we'll just set the VA settings again with the storage account, and we'll be all set. So let's run this. Okay, now let's go back to the portal, and we can see that we're back to the status. And you can see here that you have all the options that you used to have for classic configuration. Okay, now let's continue playing with this server. In our documentation, we put a few script examples. Okay, look at the Manage VA Assessments page. We have a part that talks about using PowerShell. Now, as part of the public preview, we still don't have official PowerShell commandlets, but we took the new APIs and wrapped them inside of PowerShell. Okay, so it's kind of a fake PowerShell script, but it will become we will have real official CM commandlets for Express configuration at GA. And then I wanted to show you these two scripts that we have here. So the first one will enable Express configuration on an existing server. And all you have to do is copy the script, set up the subscription, resource group, and server name, and then run it. And what this will do is, for this specific server, it will check if there are existing database policies. It will clear all the underlying policies, and then set Express configuration on the server level. This is a good time to mention that that the Express configuration works only at the server level and not database level. And that goes with that thinking that we'd like to protect all the databases under a server and not specific ones. Okay. So the script, if you don't use the force parameter, it will ask you if it's okay to remove the existing policies. Okay, so we'll agree and run it. Now, so it will clear all the database level policies, set Express configuration on the database, on the server level, and then it will also run a scan for every database under that server. We like this example because it shows how to use many of the new APIs. So if you go through the script, you'll have a lot of great examples of how to get started if you want to build your own script with your own logic. We can see here that that we don't have the recommendation anymore because we're configuration. And if we go to the database, at this point, you can see that some of the databases are healthy, some are not. And you can use the other script that we put in the documentation to just use the latest scan results and set them as baselines.
Yeah, that's definitely great. The fact that we are providing the script and they are able to automate that, it also helps a lot. So great enhancement. I have received many feedback in the past about asks for this enhancement. So I'm really glad this came to fruition now. Great work from you and from the team that put this together. Appreciate.
Thank you. Thank you. So please reach out if you have any questions. I'm really happy to be here. And we're very excited about this feature. So please give us feedback. We'll be happy to reply or fix the documentation.
Yeah, and talking about feedback, I'm gonna put the link below for a blog post that you work with Liana. So a shout out to Liana also, not only for helping publishing the article, but also for the questions for today's episode that she also helped she contribute with those questions. Link below for the article with the announcement. And if you have any question on the announcement, there is a section in the article that you can ask questions. Of course, you can also visit our user voice, another link below, to share your ideas and thoughts. Catalin, thank you very much for your time today. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you, Yuri. It's been great.
All right, everyone. This is a wrap for today's episode. Thank you very much for your time. Stay tuned. Subscribe. We have a lot more to come.